welcome to Small Farm Living. Today we are going to be using these three pretty prints. Two of them are napkins, one of them is a parchment paper, but they're super easy to do and fun. I did have a couple of hiccups. I'm going to show you those because crafting isn't all about perfection. So let's get to crafting. Okay, so for craft number one, I found this cute little egg. I believe I found it at the Hobby Lobby. And then I found these beautiful little napkins just the other day when we were there, and they were 50% off. And I thought they were just beautiful. There's something about that classic blue and white look. And I love that this is a continuous print napkin. It gives me a lot more options for the use of the whole napkin. So what I'm going to do is just take this little cup of water and a little paintbrush. I'm going to separate the layers so that I only have the very top layer. And this was just a 2-ply napkin, and it was really stuck on there. So I grabbed a couple pieces of tape and stuck them on the corner so I could get the edges pried apart and get it going. And I went really slow because I just felt like the very top of this napkin that had the actual print on it was really thin, and I didn't want to rip it. I got to a point where I felt a little more confident, so I got it pulled off of there. And now I'm just going to set that other piece aside, and I'm going to just take and use my wet paintbrush and do a little like designs around the flowers. A couple of them I am going to do 2 flowers in one little like ripping, and then I'm going to do a whole bunch of just the single flowers. I don't want there to be any kind of pattern theme showing on my egg, so I'm going to be doing more single flowers than I am the 2 together. So I'm just going to start separating that and get that pulled apart, and then I'm going to work on doing the rest of my napkin. And this is why I did 2 together, because I figured it would cover up a little bit more of the bulk of the side of the egg. So now that I have all my pieces cut out, I'm just going to take some of my Mod Podge and smear it over this egg. And this is a very smooth egg. There's no, you can see tiny lines, but really you don't feel them when you're putting stuff on. So I'm just going to tap it down with my fingers very lightly. And again, because this napkin is really thin, you do have to be very careful about setting your thumb on any part that you have just put down while holding it, or it will stick to your thumb and peel off of the egg. Ask me how I know. So I had just worked on half of the egg. Oops, I almost dropped it there. And I got to the point where I had to set it aside and just let it dry because, like I said, I couldn't touch any more of the egg or I was going to get it on the part that I had just put down. Now, the next day, I came back and I was looking at this and I was like, oh man, you can still see some of that brown egg through there. I wasn't thinking before I started. I was just looking at the white on the napkin and not thinking that it would really become more transparent once I started putting the decoupage on. So you can just see I kind of get it stuck on there, and then I take a little bit more of my paintbrush and work it over the top of it and secure the edges down. Now, I wasn't bothered by any wrinkles or bumps. I think it just gives it a little more character, but I really wasn't liking the way the brown was showing once it dried. So I thought I would try watering down a little bit of white paint and seeing if it would make any difference if I put it over the brown parts and then wiped it off a little bit. And as you can see, it really wasn't doing a whole lot. It just very faint. And I felt if I used a lot of white, like you could see on there, it showed through. And I thought, this is just not turning out how I wanted. It looks like caca. I am going to just start over. So I grabbed my white paint and yeah, I just painted over the whole thing and turned it all white again, which is what I should have done to begin with. So in the beginning of the video, when I was talking about a few things didn't turn out like I thought they were going to, this was one of them. So after I painted it all white and I let it set and dry, I came back and I just repeated this whole process over again. And I'm not going to bore you with the whole thing. I will make this part go very quick for you because you've already seen how I Mod Podge it on. But I just wanted to assure you, if you ever have a project where this has happened to you or you don't like the look, I found that there was no problem at all doing this over top of the paint and the previous Mod Podge. It stuck really well, and even after it was fully cured and I've moved it around and displaying it and things, perfectly fine. It was like I never had a mistake, so it was pretty awesome. But you can see I'm just kind of randomly putting pieces on in multiple different directions. Large 2 pieces, then a bunch of small 1 pieces, and then just brushing down those edges to get it secured. Now, when you have the curve of the egg going down, It is a little more tricky because you will have like little folds in it, but because the napkin is so thin, I found that it really didn't affect it at all. And like I was saying, because I'm okay with a little bit of wrinkles and a little bit of bumps in this, it just gives it more character. I thought it turned out looking just fine. So this is what I'm talking about right here. You can kind of see how I made a little bit of a crease there and put it down. And I just kept moving forward until my whole egg was done. And this is the last piece on this side. And then of course I had to set and let it dry before I could do the other side, because again, if I touched it, it would just pull it off onto my thumb. So real quickly, just finishing up the other side. And I just think these are the most beautiful napkins. I need to keep my eye on Hobby Lobby and see when they come out with new ones. I think it would be fun to get some like for spring and summer and fall and winter, just so I have the option of having the materials available for when I do my decoupage. So here we are wrapping up the second side, and I'm just putting Mod Podge over the whole thing, just so that it stays secured down and in place. And I'm going to set it right here next to my paintbrush and let it dry. And then once it was dry, this is what it looked like when it was all done. I just displayed it on this little glass candle holder from the Dollar Tree, but you can see there's a little bit of wrinkles in there, but the color of the blue and the white, it's so vibrant and pretty. And I love that contrast next to normal pastels that you find at Easter time. But I'm just going to turn it here so that you can see the whole side of the egg. So let me know what you think. Do you like that it has a little bit of wrinkles in it? And I have them next to my cute little woolly bully lamb. Now on to the next project. This is also kind of like a decoupaged bunny that I got at the thrift store. I've had it for years, and it has all these different creases in it, and I wasn't quite sure how the decoupage was going to lay down on it. But look at this beautiful napkin. I got this at the Dollar General of all places, and it is very stuck together as well. So what I'm going to do first, because I learned with my egg, is I'm going to paint this little bunny completely white before I start. So I'm just going to put some down on my wax paper, and I tend to use wax paper a lot when I do painting because it's very cheap and it's very easy for cleanup, and I don't have to wash a palette or anything like that. So I'm just going to proceed to paint my whole bunny white, not missing any spots, so that when I do decoupage my napkin on there, I don't have any of this brown showing through. And if you've seen this bunny before and you know where he came from, let me know. I think he is so adorable. It would be kind of fun to get another one, but you know, like with most home decor pieces, they change the styles every season, so it is kind of hard to find things if it's 1 or 2 years old. So now that I have him all painted white, I'm just going to work on the last few little pieces down here at the bottom. And what I ended up having to do was set him down on his bottom on the ground there on the parchment paper, and then, or gosh, the wax paper, I can't even talk. And then I just took my brush and very gently tapped the edges, and I left the bottom brown. I didn't worry about painting the bottom. Now I am just going to peel these two pieces of the napkin apart like I did with the blue and white one. This again, I found this at the Dollar General. I thought it was just so pretty and springy and happy, and I love that it's a continuous print napkin. Again, it has these little blue borders on it, so I'm just going to wet those and rip those off, and then proceed to take off a bunch of just random pieces. I really just made different shapes and different sizes out of these because again, I didn't want any kind of a pattern to start appearing on my bunny, as well as because there's so many different shapes and creases to this bunny. I also didn't want to have too big of pieces so that I was left with a bunch of bulky material when I was trying to go around one of the edges. So I am going to just proceed to do what I did with the egg, but I thought I would start on the back side of the bunny, which is a very long strip, with one of my longer pieces, so that it kind of encompassed his whole backside. So again, not rocket science, but just kind of a relaxing, very easy project to do. I think my granddaughter, she's 3.5. So I'm thinking maybe by next year she'll be big enough to sit and appreciate doing this without making a horrendous mess, but we shall see. I'm kind of looking forward to crafting with her. I have 3 daughters, and all 3 of them grew up crafting with me and absolutely loved it. So you can see I'm just working my way around the bunny with little bits and pieces. And right here, it kind of reminds me of like he has a little vest on, but I'm just putting you on a time lapse so this goes quickly since it, like I said, it isn't rocket science. It's just putting it on and tamping it down and working it into all the edges and the pieces. And I did at the bottom, I wrapped some of the napkin around, and because it was thin enough, I just did that so that it made a clean edge on the bottom, but again, it was so thin that when you sat the bunny up, it didn't affect its sturdiness at all. It was like it wasn't even there, so that was pretty awesome. So we'll just finish up getting the napkin put on this cute little bunny. And it was a little delicate trying to finish this. Some of the pieces on the other side of the bunny had dried a little bit by the time I got to the other side, but this is what it looked like when it was finished. I just think he turned out so sweet. I love this napkin. It almost looks like the little pink flower is an eyeball on this side. And you can see how the pieces just wrapped around so nice and pretty. You see what I mean by that pink flower landing right there, looking just like an eyeball. And what's funny is as we go to the other side, you will see that this one has kind of a peachy colored flower that looks like an eyeball as well. I didn't plan that at all. It's just how it turned out. So let me know what you think about this one. If you love this sweet little napkin, again, if you're interested in it, it's at the Dollar General if they still have it. And it was $1.50 for the pack. Now on to the last craft. This I found at the thrift store. Wasn't really my vibe with the aqua-y teal blue. I don't even know what color you would call that. The flower kind of bounces up and down. So I got my little plastic scraper to protect the wood as I pulled that little flower off. And then I did the same thing with these leaves. Now these leaves just had one single like little nail that held them in. The flower was held on by 2 staples at the top. So I took those off, and then I used my little finger sander here to scrape down. I wasn't really trying to get rid of the print behind it. I didn't mind if it showed through a little bit, but I just wanted to scuff it up for adhesion. And this is beautiful botanical parchment paper of all things that I found at the Hobby Lobby. And I've heard that parchment paper doesn't work really well with decoupage, but I had to give it a try anyway because I think it is so pretty. Now, this little piece in the center, it does not come off, and I knew if I tried to take it off, I would have done more damage probably to the base as well as to this cute little like finial type piece than if I just tried to work around it. So I took a piece of wax paper, used my finger to kind of trace the basic design of it, held it over to see if that would work, and then I traced that onto this strip of paper that I did and put it on there. Now, let me tell you, this took me 3 tries to get it right, because at first I had tried to cut out one piece, like one strip with that design on there, and it was just way too big. And then I had tried to glue down the piece of parchment paper on there and then cut around it after I had glued it on there, and it didn't fit right. It was just a disaster. So this was try 3. And what I ended up doing was just gluing half of it down at first. And then I took this little X-Acto knife and I just very gently, after this had dried a little bit, if you don't let it dry enough, then the paper is just kind of gummy and it doesn't want to cut right. So just make sure you let it dry first. And then I just very gently with the tip of this X-Acto knife followed the edge of this little finial piece all the way down. And there's a lot of bumps and shapes to it. So there was a little bit of cleanup work just with the knife as soon as it was completely dry. And then I realized what I needed to do was cut down the center and not cut on the other side. So that way I had enough room to fold this over the top without trying to, I'm trying to make this make sense for you. If I had tried to cut it out all the way on the other side, I would have shorted myself material. So by doing it this way and gluing it down, I was able to get the other side cut out exactly how I needed. So while that is drying, I am just going to glue down my other 2 strips. and I am leaving enough space in between as much as possible because you can see they're like individual little slats of wood, and I still want that to show. So I'm getting my third piece put on there. And this is just like a little Cricut tool that I picked up at the Dollar Tree, but I love to use it to flatten pieces down. And this is my little finger sander. If you're interested in any of the supplies that I'm using, I do have affiliate links down in the description box, so be sure you take a look at that. Any purchase that you make does help my channel with a small commission, which is greatly appreciated because that's kind of how I make some money, but I'm telling you, it's pennies, but every little bit helps. So I am just going to scrape down, and in the downward motion, what this does is it just makes it look like this paper was perfectly made for this piece. And you can see it has like little edges at the top. They're not perfectly square. So I sanded those, and then I just used a fingernail file here, but because the little finger sander kit comes with little strips of sandpaper, I could have used one of those as well. But you can see it got it all nicely separated, and you can still see those lines in between each slat of wood, which is what I was going for. Now, this flower, again, I'm just not a fan of the color. It is metal, and so what I ended up doing was bending all of the back petals back first, because what I wanted to do is paint this, and purple honestly is my favorite color. I don't know why. I love all colors because I do flowers for a living, flowers and veg. So you will see videos on that, just FYI. If you're not interested in them, don't worry. But purple, I'm always drawn to purple when it comes to flowers. So I thought I would paint this purple, but I came to realize that this was it's a metallic purple, and the metallic with the metal was making it kind of very shiny, and I wasn't really sure if I liked that. And I wanted to create a softer yellow on the inside of the flower. I mixed yellow and green together, and it just ended up being a little too greeny. So I just took some straight yellow, figured I would put it on there and see how I liked it. And when I put it on there, going over the existing metal, and it's kind of a distressed metal look, some of that was showing through on the flower, which I liked because it kind of toned the yellow down a little bit. But by the time it dried, it was looking a little streaky, so I put a second layer on there. And then I proceeded to take some of the kind of greenish colored stuff that I had made before, and I dabbed that into the center of the flower. So now you can see it is looking a little bit bright yellow. I'm not sure if I really like how bright that yellow is, but I figured I would just keep going. I'm putting, as I had mentioned, the little darker color in the center to see if I could give that a little bit more depth and character. It's kind of hard to see on camera because the shades are pretty close, but it is definitely a tiny bit darker. I might streak a little bit of that on the petals itself once they dry, just with the dry brush, but we'll see. Now this part, I wanted to take a little bit of my antiquing wax, and I wanted to distress the edges just a little bit. And I was telling myself to be very careful as I was doing this, because I didn't want to have a whole lot of distressing throughout the whole piece. And oh, lo and behold, as I got to the bottom, I don't know what happened. Fat finger syndrome, I don't know, but I just blubbed the bottom and got too much on there. But I tried to wipe it off and it didn't really work. So I just kind of tried to counterbalance that on the other side and worked my way around the rest of the piece. And as I got to the top, I just kind of worked my way around, and then on the actual finial piece, there was already scuffs on it, and I just wanted to deepen those a little bit, so I put a little bit of antique wax on that as well. So now onto the flower, I am just pushing the petals back up into the shape that they need to be in order for this to fit back onto the piece. And I did cut the little metal piece that attached it to the board that kind of made it bounce around. I just wanted to be solid on there. So I put a really generous amount of hot glue on the back. And part of that is because a little bit of that metal piece was still on there and I wanted it to sit as flat as possible. So now I'm just positioning this how I wanted the petals to look over that finial and holding it down until it is secured into place. And as I got to looking at it, I thought that purple was a little too bright, so I went back in and used a little bit of a deeper color of purple. So let me know, do you like this color better? I do. I just am still wondering if I should do something more to that yellow to tone it down a little bit. But here's what it looked like, the finished piece. Total transformation. I love this botanical print on the back, of course, again, because I am a flower girl. But I just thought it turned out super sweet. And this is something that I could hang in my bathroom and hang my robe off of it or something like that. But you will see down here this cute little fat bird. I also make these, and I'm going to be doing a future video coming out here real soon on that, so be sure you're subscribed if you'd like to learn how to make this little bird. So now we are going to do a final wrap up. Here are all three of my pieces together. Here is the little bunny, again made from a napkin from the Dollar General. And I just think he turned out so precious. He just screams spring to me. I just love bunnies and floral. And my little Easter egg that's blue and white print. I love how this turned out. I'm so happy that I painted it white and started over. What do you think? Looks much better, doesn't it, with the white background? And then again, my botanical piece that I made. Let me know, do you think I should put a little bit more on that yellow flower? I'm thinking I probably should tone it down just a little bit. But again, here are all the pieces, and they'll just be fun. I haven't finished my Easter decorating yet, but we're getting close, and the little bird that I'll be showing here coming soon. So that is it for this week. I'll have gardening videos coming up soon. Otherwise, thanks for hanging out. I'll see you next time.